Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the right thing to do is not get yourself in that bloody situation in the first place.
I agree, but if you are selling yourself as a man trying to reconstitute masculinity in the present, don't sell men the instrument of their own immiseration. And the thing is, for a lot of people, the average age of watching porn is like 11 or 12, as we've already covered before, right? Starting to, right? Okay. Nowadays. Very addictive substance. They may be finding, particularly because Andrew has now been banned on TikTok, they may be finding pornography and that sort of chat room far before they find Andrew's content, where he doesn't mention pornography, where he says, be a man and grow up and be an alpha male, right? And lots of these men as well won't be Andrew's level of status. They won't get his Bugattis. They won't get his harem full of women. I've heard he has wife and children off the side. And
yeah, he's got a few of them.
Wife, he has a girlfriend, but I've heard he has children off the side that he keeps out of the limelight. So, but lots of these men, especially if they're spending all this money and time on porn and webcam girls, won't be having a girlfriend, and they won't be propagating themselves out into the future with their own family. So you are creating a class of dependents who are already hooked on the substance, and then they may be funneling themselves into your side enterprise they don't even know is run by you, and engaging in this parasocial relationship rather than building themselves up as men. So even if you are honest about wanting to rebuild masculinity, right? To make alphas again, you are allowing some to fall prey to the exact thing that is keeping them enslaved to female sexual capital and is making them servile and unable to get themselves out of the matrix.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I still find these charges that have been put against him, they seem disingenuous.
Bro, what did you just listen to? Are you okay?
Yeah, we can't say as to the severity of the allegation.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, they don't ring true to me on this anyway. But you know, the point that you're making, that he's basically harvesting cash from guys while telling them to be better than that. I mean. Yeah. Cam girls will do all of those things themselves anyway.
I agree.
So I find the exploitation line of this a bit difficult to see. But yeah, this is not a convincing male role model when you factor in that kind of stuff as well.
Exactly. You don't have to be running the most successful enterprise at the same time as you're telling men to be better. Because yes, the industry may well exist outside of your influence, but you are being hypocritical. And rather than adding your voice to the consensus saying, we should tear down this industry that preys on young men.
I wonder how much their fans shit on them for this take.
Didn't have a father, for example, and don't know.
I bet there's a whole bunch of cope in the comment section.
Relationship with a woman. We should be going against that. Instead, you're selling two at once. You're like a drug addict selling me rehab.
Yes.
Not good.
So, I mean, there is a genuine gap in the market for masculine values.
Yeah.
Our gynocentric society is clearly hostile to a sort of positive male role model.
Obviously, otherwise Andrew wouldn't have been popular.
Yeah, exactly. And well, before that, I think you made the comparison to Jordan Peterson off air. I mean,
when I went on Piers Morgan's show, for example, and we discussed about the Me Too going too far, right? Piers opened with the introduction to me saying, oh, Connor's a conservative commentator, and he agrees with Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate.
And I just don't believe the women.
In my face, because it gives it away all the time. I just went, because I definitely agree with Dr. Peterson. I find
he was attacked for daring to insult the little Swedish climate gremlin.
And he doesn't have the same contradictions, or at least
Peterson is not running a cam girl show on the side.
No, obviously,
that we know
of. Obviously, his benzodiazepine withdrawal coma was a very unfortunate thing that I think he feels bad that he couldn't have foreseen, for example, as a clinical psychologist. And actually his absence allows Tate to rise in his stead, because he was comatose for 2019 and 2020, nearly a full 2 years. Yeah. So that left a vacuum, and someone less refined and more contradictory came up instead. And so Jordan Peterson is one of those men, definitely. But there is also a kind of warlord conquering spirit that is in the heart of manhood. And nobody can accuse Jordan Peterson of being particularly stoic or muscular. You know, he's an older gentleman. He isn't afraid of crying. He's more academic. He's not as physical. Andrew Tate is a kickboxer. He was compared himself to Genghis Khan. Not the best comparison because he's an actual rapist, but there you go. Not Andrew Tate.
Wait, who? Yeah, I was going to say, which one?
I think the problem is that warlord conquering spirit needs to be melded as the protector part of the provider part of being a husband and father. I've said this before. I would rather be George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life with a small family than an Andrew Tate with a mansion full of
So that's the thing.
models.
What is genuine and real masculinity?
Yeah.
And real alpha males do not go around telling you that they're an alpha male all the time. That's not what they do. They don't need to. They have a calm, confident, masculine energy that doesn't feel the need to promote itself. And this is why I sort of went back and forth this morning when I was looking into Andrew Tate, because I started watching his stuff, and you know, he speaks like he's about to headbutt you over an argument in a car park. He's got that sort of hyper masculine type approach of putting his message
That
across.
is the perfect analogy.
And so I was listening to this stuff, and first of all, I was quite turned off by it because there is a gap in masculinity. There is an emptiness for the provision of positive and strong role models, which, as we've talked about, Jordan Peterson went into, and this is something that he's gone into as well. And because young men are so starved for positive masculine role models, they often try and figure it out for themselves without knowing what they're trying to emulate. And you will often see young men who try and adopt a masculine frame, and they do it by being unnecessarily aggressive and cocky and loutish because they think that is masculinity.
I see that on trains and in restaurants.
You see it all the time.
There are 15-year-old boys now who are dressing as roadmen, which is a colloquialism for England for our international audience, where they'll have the big puffer jackets, the Gucci man bags, the perfectly white trainers, and the sort of fisherman's hats, walking around going, "Hey, top G, yeah," and they're repeating lines from Tate because...
Do you think men are starved for role models? Where did this talking point come from? I think, like, especially in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, we had like the Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger era of movies, and I think like kind of like men were on top of the world and everything. I think over the past like probably 20-ish years, there's been a big push for female empowerment. Some of that has come at the cost of like as much as like men spend in the limelight, and I think it combined with the fact that people are so eager to shit on and attack men constantly, I think probably leaves a lot of especially younger men feeling like the world is not only is it not for them anymore, but like they are the ones that don't belong anymore, like at all. I think it's a fair feeling to get based on the way that some people are allowed to talk about young men. Yeah, I do also feel like progressive values tend to be, when it comes to men, progressive values tend to be a lot more critical, like saying these are the things you can't do, whereas conservative values, I guess, in some ways seem to be a little bit more instructive, like these are the things you ought to do. But that might be biased. I mean, you could flip that maybe. Like there's a bunch of religious rules for things you can't do, so who knows. Who are women role models? Kim Kardashian. Do you think to some degree it's also the lack of adapting from men? Yeah, maybe a little bit. But men might have a harder time to adapt too. The weird thing is, the 50-plus-year-old rich white dudes are the ones people are angry at. All the negative feelings towards those rich old white men is directed at boys and men aged 13 to 30. True. Never been discriminated for being a man. I don't have to be scared going out at night. How are guys such fucking babies? Well, I mean, it feels shitty when it feels like all of society can shit on you and you have to be careful around your other half, I guess, right? Against women. I don't know. I mean, I'm empathetic towards it. I understand where the frustration comes from. All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.